Okay, so I want you to project yourself forward a bit.
Right.
It is the year 2026.
I am there.
You are scrolling through the global box office charts, and there is this absolute juggernaut of a movie sitting at #1.
Right.
It is called Sunshine Ladies Choir.
Huge movie.
Massive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is pulling in hundreds of millions of dollars, completely crushing the usual superhero franchises. And here is the kicker. It's not about space battles or multiverse timeline hopping.
Not at all.
It is a drama.
Yeah.
A really gritty drama about female prisoners, some of whom are convicted murderers.
Yeah.
And they're raising their toddlers inside a jail cell.
It creates a really intense visual, doesn't it? It's a very specific cultural moment to start a deep dive with.
It is.
But what we are looking at today isn't a film review. We actually have a sermon for March 1st, 2026. And the speaker uses that movie, that massive pop culture phenomenon, as a lens to look at something much older.
Right. We are talking about the narrative in Mark chapter 9.
Exactly. Specifically the story of a father and his son who is possessed by a quote-unquote mute spirit.
And I have to say, just looking through the source material, the connection works surprisingly well.
It really does.
You have these women in the movie, women who have done arguably the worst things a person can do.
Yeah, terrible crimes.
But they are showing this fierce, just undeniable love for their kids. And then you have this father in the biblical text who is absolutely at the end of his rope.
Desperate.
Completely desperate. So the mission for this deep dive is pretty clear. We are going to unpack how the speaker connects these two incredibly different worlds. We're going to look at the limits of human love, this really complex idea of unbelief. And, well, later, there's this analogy about a gas station that, honestly, it kind of ruined my day.
Yeah, it is a confronting analogy. It forces you to look at whether you are treating faith as a transformative relationship or, just a utility.
Just a quick stop.
Right. But before we get to the gas station, I am really excited because we have to talk about traditional Chinese medicine.
Yes. The TCM breakdown. I remember reading through the notes and thinking, how on earth does acupuncture relate to the New Testament?
It seems like a stretch at first.
But the way the speaker lays it out is fascinating. It's a whole diagnosis framework.
Exactly. It totally changes the way you read the interaction between Jesus and the Father. But let's start where the speaker starts, the universal bond.
Right, the movie,
Yeah.
Sunshine Ladies Choir. The speaker actually details the plot quite a bit, and it is heavy.
Very heavy.
You've got 5 women in a cell. One of them stabbed her abusive husband. Another one poisoned her partner. Another was involved in gang violence.
These aren't misunderstood shoplifters.
No. They are violent offenders. But the movie focuses on them raising their children in prison.
And that is the juxtaposition the speaker wants us to feel. He isn't trying to justify their crimes or make some grand political statement about the prison system. He's pointing out a biological, almost spiritual reality. He says, parents' hearts are the same under heaven.
I love that line.
It's powerful. It doesn't matter if you are a saint or a convict, if your child is in danger, or if your child needs you, that protector instinct just overrides everything else.
There's that scene the speaker describes where the mother is braiding her daughter's hair inside a concrete cell.
Yeah.
It just highlights that desperation. You want to save your kid no matter where you are or what you've done. And that is the bridge to the Father in Mark 9.
Because he is also in a prison of sorts.
A completely different kind of prison, yeah.
A prison of hopelessness.
Yeah.
He brings his son to Jesus' disciples because the boy is possessed. But I think we need to slow down here and look at the description of this spirit.
Okay.
Because the speaker makes a really important distinction. This isn't the Hollywood demon possession we usually think of.
You mean like the head-spinning, shouting obscenities type of thing?
Right, exactly. The speaker compares this case to the Gerasene demoniac. The guy living in the tombs who could break chains and was screaming all the time.
They all like
The violent, loud presentation. But in Mark 9, the text calls it a mute spirit.
Which sounds, almost benign initially. Like, okay, he can't talk, that's sad, definitely. But it doesn't sound scary.
Until you look closer.
Right, because the source material points out that mute here effectively means a blockade. It is a spirit of total isolation.
It is a silent killer. The symptoms described are terrifying. The boy foams at the mouth, he grinds his teeth, and he becomes completely rigid.
It's a lockdown of the body.
Yes. And the most chilling detail is the intent behind it. The father says the spirit often throws him into the fire and into the water to destroy him.
That is the part that gets me.
Right.
It is not just a sickness, it's an active malice.
Active destruction.
Imagine being that father. You cannot communicate with your son because the spirit is mute. It prevents speech.
No connection.
Yeah. None. And you have to watch him basically self-destruct or be thrown into these dangerous situations constantly. I mean, the vigilance required, you would never sleep.
Precisely. And that brings us to the first real tragedy of this story. The father seeks help. He does the right thing.
Right.
He goes to the Jesus team. He finds the disciples. Jesus is up on the mountain, so the father goes to the followers, the professionals, essentially.
And they flop.
Completely.
They completely bomb. The speaker notes that the father says, I spoke to your disciples that they should cast it out, but they could not.
They could not. That is such a heavy phrase. You really have to imagine the scene here.
It's a spectacle.
A huge spectacle. The crowd is watching. The scribes are there, probably criticizing the disciples, trying to trip them up.
Oh, for sure.
The disciples are likely sweating, trying their usual prayers, their commands, and nothing happens.
The boy is still foaming.
The spirit is still there.
It sets up this incredible tension. So by the time Jesus walks down the mountain, the situation isn't just a medical crisis anymore. It is a public relations disaster.
A riot waiting to happen.
Literally. Everyone is arguing. And this is exactly where the speaker pivots to that traditional Chinese medicine framework we teased earlier.
This is such a unique take. The speaker is preaching in a context that deeply understands these cultural references, and he suggests we look at Jesus' response through the 4 diagnostic methods of TCM.
Which are Wang, Wen, and Kie. Now, I am going to need you to walk me through these because the only one I know is checking a pulse.
No problem, let's break them down. The first is Wang. This means looking or observing.
Okay.
You check the patient's complexion, their posture, their spirit. When Jesus arrives, he sees the chaos. He sees the boy rolling on the ground. He is observing the physical reality of the crisis.
Okay, that makes sense. That's standard medical practice anywhere. What's the next one?
The first, Wen. This character means listening and smelling.
Smelling. Okay, I get listening. The crowd is shouting, the scribes are arguing, Jesus is hearing the conflict. But how does smelling apply here? Is the speaker being literal?
It can be literal. Sickness often has a physical smell, but the speaker is using it more metaphorically to describe the atmosphere.
Ah, gotcha.
In TCM, you sense the environment of the patient. Here, the atmosphere smells of unbelief. It smells of failure. The disciples are embarrassed, the scribes are arrogant, the crowd is agitated.
Jesus is sensing the toxicity of the situation immediately.
Right. He is diagnosing the room before he even diagnoses the boy.
I really like that. He's reading the room, essentially. He knows the vibe is totally off.
Exactly. Then comes the second Wen. It's a different character, which means asking. And this is the pivot point of the whole story.
Yeah.
In the middle of this screaming, chaotic scene, Jesus stops and asks the father a question.
How long has this been happening to him?
Yes.
Now, I have to play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
If I am that father, and my kid is literally convulsing on the ground, and the great healer stops to ask me about the timeline,
You'd be frustrated.
I would lose it. I'd be thinking, this is not the time for a patient intake form.
Yeah.
Just fix him. So why does the speaker think Jesus does this?
It's a brilliant observation by the speaker. He argues that Jesus isn't asking for information. He is God, right? Presumably, he already knows.
Right.
He is asking for the Father's sake. This aligns with the TCM idea of understanding the history to treat the root cause. But more than that, it validates the trauma.
Validates it how?
Think about it. For years, this father has likely been dealing with this in total isolation. Or people have just been throwing quick fixes at him.
Oh yeah, like the disciples just tried to do.
Exactly. By asking how long, Jesus forces the father to voice the burden, the father has to say, from childhood. He has to articulate out loud that this has been a lifetime of suffering.
It's acknowledgement.
Yes.
It's Jesus saying, I see that this isn't just a bad afternoon. I see that this has been your entire life.
If the boy is a teenager, that is over a decade of pulling him out of fires and ponds. Over 10 years of terror. Jesus is honoring the father's endurance before he even touches the son.
It shifts the dynamic completely.
How so?
Well, it moves it from a transaction, fix my kid, to an actual relationship. He's seeing the father, not just the problem.
That's spot on. But the father is so damaged by the disciples' failure that he can't quite fully trust Jesus yet. And this leads to that famous slip of the tongue.
The father says, if you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us.
That word, if. It lands like a slap in the face. if you can.
It is pretty rude when you think about it.
Very.
You are talking to the guy who just came down from the Mount of Transfiguration, and you are saying, hey, look, your interns are incompetent, so I don't know if you're any good either, but give it a shot.
It's rude, but it's deeply honest. The speaker calls this small hope amidst disappointment.
Small hope.
The Father is burned out. He is looking at Jesus entirely through the lens of his recent disappointment with the disciples, and Jesus catches it immediately.
He throws the if right back at him.
If you can believe, all things are possible.
It's like Jesus is saying, the blockage isn't in my power supply. It is in your reception.
Exactly. And that provokes the most famous line in the story. The Father cries out with tears. The text notes, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief.
Let's spin a minute here, because usually in religious circles, you are taught that you either have faith or you don't.
Right, a binary.
It's a light switch. You believe or you are a skeptic. But this guy is claiming both simultaneously. How does the speaker unpack that?
The speaker treats this not as a contradiction, but as the most honest prayer in the Bible. It is a raw admission of insufficiency.
Okay.
The Father is saying, I have enough faith to bring him to you. That is thy belief part.
Right, he showed up.
But I also have doubt, trauma, and fear. That is the unbelief part. He isn't trying to fake it. He isn't hiding the doubt. He is asking Jesus to help him with the doubt itself.
Help my unbelief. He is literally asking for his capacity to trust to be expanded.
Yes. He is admitting he cannot generate the faith required on his own. And I want you to contrast that with the disciples for a second.
Oh, the guys who failed.
Right. Later in the source material, the speaker mentions the disciples privately asking Jesus why they failed. And Jesus tells them, this kind can come out by nothing but prayer and fasting.
Which implies they weren't praying.
It implies they were relying on their status. They were the Jesus team. They probably thought, we have the badge, we have the authority, watch this. They were operating on complete autopilot.
Arrogance.
Exactly. The Father, in his unbelief, was actually depending on Jesus more than the disciples were. The disciples had arrogance. The Father had desperate dependence.
Dependence. That is the key word. And that sets up the speaker's final major point.
Here we go.
The gas station.
The hardest part of the sermon.
The speaker pivots to modern life. He says most of us treat God like a gas station. And honestly, as I was reading this part of the notes, I was mentally checking off boxes in my own life.
We all do.
Way too accurate.
Lay it out for us. What is the scenario he builds?
Okay, so you are driving the car of your life. You are behind the steering wheel. You know where you are going. You're making all the turns.
Cruising along.
But then he crisis. The red light on the dashboard comes on. The engine starts sputtering. Maybe it is a massive health scare. Maybe you lose your job. Maybe your kid gets sick. You are empty.
So naturally, you pull into the station.
You pull in.
Yeah.
You find God, and you pray. But the prayer is, fill it up.
Fix the problem.
You just want the problem handled. Lord, get me this job. Lord, heal this sickness. Lord, pay this bill.
And here is the crucial part the speaker highlights. Let's say the prayer is actually answered.
Okay.
The tank is full. The crisis is averted. What does the driver do next?
They say, thanks God. And they floor it out of the station.
And they go right back to driving the exact same way they were driving before?
That is the transactional faith he's talking about.
Yeah.
It is using God as a resource to fund my trip. I am still the driver. I still determine the destination. I just need God to provide the fuel so I can do what I want to do.
The speaker is critiquing this whole idea of an emergency room savior. We want Jesus to fix the symptoms so we can get back to our lives. But we do not want him to interfere with the itinerary.
There's a line in the notes where the speaker implies we act like, okay, God, you fixed the flat tire. Great. Now get out of the car. I have places to be.
And the tragedy, as the speaker points out, is that if you keep driving the way you were driving, you are just going to run out of gas again.
Yep.
Or worse, you're going to drive off a cliff. Because the habits and the choices that led to the crisis usually haven't changed at all.
So if filling up is the wrong way to pray, what's the right way? Because we all have crises. We all have empty tanks.
The speaker connects it back to the Father's plea in Mark 9, help my unbelief. The solution isn't just give me fuel. The solution is take the keys.
Take the keys.
Yep.
Now that sounds really nice on a bumper sticker, but let's be real, that is terrifying.
It is utterly terrifying. It is a total loss of control.
Because if I hand over the keys, I don't get to say where we're going anymore.
No.
I don't get to choose the speed. I might end up somewhere I never ever wanted to be.
That is the risk of real faith. But the speaker's argument is that the father in the story only got his son back when he surrendered his own ability to fix it.
Right.
He had to admit that his love, as fierce and protective as it was, like those mothers in the prison, wasn't enough. The disciple status wasn't enough. He had to surrender the outcome entirely to Jesus.
So the distinction is between asking for relief versus asking for transformation.
Exactly. Relief is fill the tank so I can keep going my way. Transformation is you drive, because I obviously do not know how to navigate this terrain.
Wow.
The boy was healed not because the father had perfect faith, but because the father surrendered his lack of faith to someone stronger.
It connects right back to that TCM diagnosis too.
Oh.
If you go to a doctor and say, my head hurts, give me a pill, but you absolutely refuse to change the stressful lifestyle that is causing the headache, you aren't really being healed.
You're just masking the symptom.
Exactly. And Jesus isn't interested in just masking symptoms. He didn't just want to stop the boy from foaming at the mouth for an afternoon. He cast the spirit out forever. He dealt with the root cause.
But that required the father to engage in that honest, painful dialogue.
How long?
Since childhood.
If you can.
No, if you believe.
It is a process of stripping away the defenses until all that is left is reliance.
Reliance. That is the word of the day right there.
So we have covered a lot of ground here. We started with a 2026 movie about prisoners, seeing that desperate universal parental love.
Yeah.
We moved to the meek spirit, that silent, destructive force. We saw the professionals completely fail. And we saw Jesus act like a master physician, diagnosing the atmosphere before curing the patient.
And finally, we were challenged by the gas station.
Yeah, I am still stuck on that one. It is uncomfortable because it exposes the motive behind our prayers. Am I praying because I want God, or am I praying because I want God to fix my problems so I can ignore him again?
That is the ultimate question. The speaker challenges the audience to realize that true faith isn't a pit stop. It is a permanent change of driver.
So here's the thought we want to leave you with today. And it builds on that exact analogy. We talked a lot about the fear of handing over the keys.
Right.
But think about what comes next. The next time you hit a wall, the next time the check engine light comes on in your life, pay attention to your first instinct.
Are you pulling in just to get enough gas to speed away again? Or are you willing to open the door, slide into the passenger seat, and hand over the keys?
And more than that, once you are in that passenger seat and the car starts moving, what are you going to do when the new driver takes a turn you actively hate?
Ooh, that's good.
Are you prepared for the fact that the new driver might not take you to the destination you originally mapped out at all? Asking for a refill versus asking for a driver changes everything. But sitting in the passenger seat in silence, that's the real test. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
See you next time.